because I say we, because our taxpayer dollars go to really fund our office. We're here to serve you all. I hope that you picked up the annual report, our annual report for 2025. We also have a constituency service guide that will just remind you of the kinds of services that we offer. Aside from Dr. Owens, we also have Quinn. Where's Quinn? He's our newest addition. He's our grants coordinator. Quinn, give him a round of applause. Of course, we have our district press secretary. Where's she? Kaylee Franklin is here. And we have the Jefferson County Outreach Manager. Where is Jose? He's out there manning the table. These are the hardworking people who work on your behalf every day. I couldn't do it by myself. Can we please give them a round? So I want to first begin by thanking our wonderful panel. I'll introduce them in a second. But I wanted to sort of set the stage. What am I doing here today? I think all of you know that I do a Congress in Your Community tour through all of my 13 counties every year. We often do it in a town hall format. But frankly, tonight we really wanted to highlight the effects of a potential budget cut and how it will affect local community services that so many of you rely on. Today I began my day at the Veterans Hospital at the VA, where I talked with employees, many of whom are frightened that they're going to lose their jobs, some of whom have taken this buyout, and talked to the administration there about how reduced staff and personnel will affect their ability to actually take care of our veterans. Then I went and talked with and did a tour of Maud Watley's Community Health Center. The director, the amazing director who's here today, Pastor Gay, and others, about what cuts would look like for them and their community health center. And then I stopped by the YMCA, and the YMCA we know is being funded by our city and state, and we're very grateful for that. But there are lots of federal programs that are run at community action centers and YMCAs like that. And so I just really wanted to get a broad view of the kinds of services that may be affected by any potential cut. And let me just tell you, we will have a cut. Why? Because this administration has already said that they want to extend the tax cuts from 2017. And they want to do it without Democratic support. So they're going to do it through a process called reconciliation, where the money that you spend, you have to show that you've cut the corresponding amount on the other side of the ledger. So all of these cuts that you're seeing, are going towards $2.3 trillion that this administration has to raise in order to extend the tax cuts from 2017. Now, I don't know about you, but a lot of those tax cuts did not trickle down to the people that I represent.
Yes.
They did not trickle down. So when people talk about this trickle-down economics, that we're going to actually give a huge tax cut to all these major corporations and all these wealthy people, and these wealthy people are going to therefore do more business and hire more people, the fact of the matter is it never trickles down to the people who need it.
Exactly.
Okay, so $2.3 trillion have got to be cut from the budget in order for that to happen. And I want you to know that in order to do that, we will see cuts to Medicaid. How much are they proposing? $800 billion in cuts to Medicaid. Now, what does Medicaid do for Americans? What does it do for folks in Tuscaloosa, for folks around the country? Medicaid is a lifeline for so many children and vulnerable people. In the state of Alabama, you don't have to just be poor to get Medicaid. You have to be po. You can't afford the O or the R. You do know that, right? It is bare bone minimum, our Medicaid program in the state of Alabama. I'm grateful for it because it does help. It's a safety net for lots of people. But that safety net could have been expanded if the state of Alabama had expanded Medicaid. Our state was one of 10 states now that did not expand Medicaid. So if you take the fact that we have a bare bone Medicaid and you put on top of that $800 billion worth of cuts to it, who will be affected? I want you to know that in the state of Alabama, 45% of the beneficiaries of Medicaid are children. the majority of the births in the state of Alabama are paid for by Medicaid. So these are real costs, real costs. And I want you as my constituents to know you have to understand the implications of what's going to happen. And I hope by learning how they will affect programs in your area, by talking with the folks who actually use federal resources to provide services to you, like our housing authority, like our community health center, like the VA. We're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to have representatives just talk about what they do every day and what their concerns may be about these cuts. At the end of the day, I want you to know that my job is not dependent upon who's in the White House. I represent you. I'm honored to do that every day, and no matter who's in the White House, no matter who controls the House or the Senate, my job stays the same. And that is to fight for you every day to have better resources, more opportunities, and have a better life for you and your families. That's my job. And that means working across the aisle when and where I can. And I hope you know that I've done that. And I will continue to work where and when I can. But I'm not going to sit back and be silent about a budget that doesn't reflect the values that I know that the people I represent share.
That's right.
Our budget is a reflection on that which we value. You spend your own personal money. Every month you get some money and you budget it. And that which you spend your money is what you value. And I value young people. I value Head Start. I value Meals on Wheels. I value community health centers. All right. So we have got to speak up and speak out about how these services and the cuts to these services and critical personnel, when you fire just willy-nilly, fire federal employees across the board, whether that's the VA, Social Security, whether that's at the health centers. Oh, we got some light somewhere. All right. But when you start cutting vital programs like that, you are every cut reflects a service, someone's livelihood. Every cut. So behind every cut is that. Now, none of us want our government to be inefficient. And are there changes that can be made to make it more efficient? Yes. But it's a way to do it, to slash and burn and then wait back and say, oh, maybe we do need some nuclear engineers to run the nuclear program. That's not what you do. What you do is you go in and you study it for a while. You tell folks that you're going to do that, and you do that. And you take the recommendations of the people that have been hired to do those jobs as to what can be cut, what can be slashed. That's what you do. You don't come in and just on day one cut everything. There's one word to summarize what I think has been going on for the last 3.5 weeks. Chaos.
Amen.
Chaos. We cannot run our government by chaos. Now the people spoke, and we've elected a president and an administration. I want to work with that president and that administration. But I'm not going to sit back and allow cuts to be made without the people back home knowing what that means for them.
Good.
Okay? And so tonight is about information. It's about a listening session. And I'm so grateful that we've been joined by some amazing people. I'm going to introduce them now. But I want you all to know that what I want you to take away from this is that your voice matters. Just like your vote mattered, your voice matters. Now we know that when we raise our voice collectively, it can make a difference. We saw that when they took away in the Air Force manual any discussion of the Tuskegee Airmen. Remember that? Yes. The outrage was palpable. People were really, really upset. Not just black people, but Alabamians. Why? Because it's America's history. It's Alabama's proud history. It is not about DEI.
No.
Okay. Just like Black History Month and the celebration of Women's History Month are not about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's about celebrating Americans and the contributions of Americans. that your voice matters, that now more than ever you have to be civically engaged, be informed. I see this crowd tonight and it warms my heart because it means that people want to be informed about what's going on. And I need you to also be objective. What does that mean? So often now we get our news source from that news source, the same news source. Democrats do CNN, Republicans do Fox. We have to be, now we don't even know what the truth is. Please, let's all be objective about this. Not everything that comes out of CNN's mouth is right. Not everything that comes out of Fox is right. All right. But I'm up there every day for you. And I wouldn't be standing here telling you that the house is on fire if the house wasn't on fire. Okay? So tonight, I'm so honored to be welcoming this amazing panel. I'm going to sit down now. These folks are public servants. They work on our behalf every day, doing amazing work. We have with us David Guy, Pastor Guy, who is the CEO of Maud Watley Health Center. We know that's a community health center right down the road. It was a great visit today, sir. Thank you so much for opening up your center to us. We have Chris Hall, who is the Executive Director of the Tuscaloosa Housing Authority. We have two federal employees. We have Tammy, where's Tammy? There's Tammy Ryan, who works at the VA, and she's the president of the American Federation of Government Employees, local number 131, right here in Tuscaloosa. And we also have Chelsea Pickett, and she is the legislative political director, coordinator, and she also is a member of the American Federation of Government Employees, local number 2206, which is in Birmingham. And I want to thank her. Let me just say, I'm going to start with a series of questions for each of you. I think that that's the way we should direct our sort of our discussion tonight. And I want you to know that you are free to add any comments in addition to that, but I think it's important that we start. So I wanted to start with you, I don't want to say Pastor Gray, I'm going to just say that. Pastor Gay, can you tell us a little bit about what Watley Health Center does? And can you also tell us how dependent are you on federal funds and what any potential cuts would do for your programs?
First, let me say thank you. Again, let me thank you for all the work that you do. Let's give a round of applause. You advocate for us, not just now, but throughout your term in office. We really appreciate what you do. Maud Watley was started back in the 70s, around 77, by a woman by the name of Maud Watley, who was a local educator here in Tuscaloosa. Noticed some health disparities in West Tuscaloosa, and along with some students from the University of Alabama decided to do something about it. So from that one season, back in the mid-70s, to now we have 8 satellites along the main campus, which I call the flagship right here on Martin Luther King Boulevard. I call it the flagship because of the services that we offer. Anything you need, you can find it right there in Maud Watley, from pediatrics to optometry, whatever you need. We even have our own pharmacy right now. I'm curious, everyone bring your pharmacy needs right there in Maud Watley. Last year, we served some 17,000 we call uniques. That's one-time, first-time users. In all, we serviced over 60,000 people who came in and out of our doors. So we see a lot of people. We depend on federal funding. 100% of our staff salary is federally funded.
Say that again.
100%. So if we talk about federal cuts, nobody gets paid. We're a nonprofit, so you have to make a profit. 100%. It takes $56,000 a day to run the facility. It's $56,000 to run the facility. And so we depend heavily. And again, it's not just about the money, it's about faces, it's about people. My dad is 95 years old. So we have to be able to put a face on what we're talking about. He's 95 5 years old, he go to Mount Wiley. Many of your relatives go to Mount Wiley. Friends go to Mount Wiley. A service that's needed in our community for those who may be less fortunate than we are. No one is turning around regardless of income. If you can pay, you can pay. If you can't pay, you still receive the debt services the West Alabama has to offer. So we're concerned, as we should be, as all of us are concerned. But it's critical and it's vital that we continue to have funding. If not, then we won't have a center. Without a center, we can't serve people. You're talking about 60,000 people. That's a lot of people who won't have the service.
Do you have satellite offices? Can you talk about the
Satellites throughout West Alabama, Pickens, Hill, Green, Sumter, Lamar. We have satellites all over. We have a mobile unit that often goes out into the rural areas. None of those individuals, none of those people be able to receive services. And when we talk about rural areas, we know that there's not a lot of health care there. And access to health care is real poor. And so in some of those counties, it is only Mount Wiley. We are the health care in those small counties. And so again, so many people will suffer from that, again, if we're not able to receive funding. It's critical.
David, how dependent are you on Medicaid? I spent a lot of time talking about Medicaid cuts. Would cuts to Medicaid dramatically affect or impact Watley Health Center?
Any kind of cut, when to be real simple, any kind of cut would affect our operations, again, because we depend so much on federal dollars. Federal dollars touch nearly all of us in some kind of way. Let's face it, all of us. And so any cut, regardless of how insignificant it may seem, is significant to us when we've been level funded anyway for the last 10 years. And so any cut with rising costs of medication, employee salaries, just the normal day-to-day operation, again, so any cut would impact our operation.
So have you seen in the last 3.5 weeks any impact at all? I mean, have you been able to access the resources you need to make payroll and all that stuff, or have there been any disruptions? And if so, how long did they last, and are you fearful that it may happen again?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we too operate on the PMS system. A few weeks ago, none of us was able to access the system. And when you can't access the system, it was out for about 2 days. And what we do is pray. Because people, again, we service people. And you still have to purchase medication, still transportation, lights still have to go on, employees have to be paid. And so we was unable to access the system for a couple of days. And last week, I think maybe half a day, we still were able to get to the system. So,
and when you say get into the system, that means you reimburse the people, your vendors?
Right. We can't, what we do, we pay and then we ask for reimbursement. And so the vendors have to be paid, employees have to be paid, medication have to be bought. Again, you still have to bring your operation, lights got to be paid. You still have to attend to the day-to-day operations. And again, we don't run a mom and pop shop. When you're talking about $56,000 a day, it's not a mom and pop operation. It's a significant budget to do that.
We thank you for the wonderful work that Watley does every day on behalf of the citizens. The American Federation of Federal Government Employees is one of the largest unions representing federal government employees. Which departments do your members work in? Can you talk about what agencies they work in? And how has the Trump administration's purge of federal workers affected the folks that you work with every day?
First of all, good evening, Tuscaloosa. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm not here alone. I have my Executive Vice President here with me from Local 2206 all the way from Birmingham. My Vice President, Ricky Owens, Jessica Townsend, and our Vice President of the TSC. We do hail from Birmingham. It's such a pleasure to be here. We recently had the pleasure of flying all the way to Washington and making it back safe.
And I want you to know that that made all the difference. The fact that they got on a plane and they, knowing that their jobs were in jeopardy, and they came to Washington to meet their lawmakers and to tell them exactly how they were being impacted makes all the difference. As your representative, I am bombarded every day with people who want my ear. There's no person or people that are more important to me than the people I represent back home. And when home comes up to DC, I make it a priority to meet with them. Why? Because you've taken the time to come up. But I think it also goes to the fact that, you know, this was an emergency, and you all came up for that. So it was a pleasure to
Absolutely.
know.
We take this work very serious. We're serious about what we do, and we are a agency in crisis. I do represent AFGE, Local 2206. Cynthia Johns is our president. I am the legislative political coordinator. AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees, we represent every facet of the government. Here in District 7, the district that you represent, we represent about 2,000 employees. We represent about 2,000 members. AFGE covers, and we are the primary, exclusive, premier representative for agencies such as Social Security, the agency that I specifically work for, the Veterans Administrations, that's the VA, the Bureau of Prison. Those are the top 3 agencies here in your district. But of course, the federal government consumes pretty much everything that operates this country. You're talking about EPA, you're talking about FAA, anything that really has something to do with a household in the country, the government pretty much manages. The way I can best describe it is the government is the machine that runs the country. The federal workforce is the engine. If I had a different analogy, I would say if the federal government workforce, the civil servants that operates the machine, if we are the body, what the purge is doing is cutting off our limbs. It's cutting off the legs, it's cutting off the hands and the feet. That's what the purge is doing. How if the machine doesn't run and operate itself, it takes actual people, human beings like myself, who pay disabled people, and I pay SSI benefits. If I'm not there to make the payment, if my job is cut, who's going to make the payment? If your physical body, let's think about it in the physical form, if your hands are cut off, your legs, your feet, your arms, the body is immobile. So that's what the purge is coming to do.
Did everyone receive that people have been talking about this letter, the fork in the road letter, that allows federal employees to opt out or to opt to terminate early termination. Did the folks back in your shop receive that letter? And if so, what is the union saying to people about that?
We received the letter via email more than once. We received reminders of it on a daily basis.
So everyone was given the option of ending their employment early and taking a quote-unquote buyout until September?
Yes, ma'am. So it was an offer of sorts to retire early. No matter how many years of service that you put in, no matter how short, no matter how long. It also gave an option to just stop abruptly. You don't have to work anymore. We will pay you. The offer said, we'll pay you just to not work. We'll pay you just to not work, and you'll receive administrative pay until September, which is extremely contradictory. We don't have a budget as it is. Where's the money coming from to pay people to not work? Why would we pay people to not work a job?
Well, as she said, we have not appropriated money for a buyout. I'm going to repeat that. We have not passed the 2025 budget. So there's been appropriated no money to do a buyout for federal employees. Now, what the letter didn't say is if you retire early, it doesn't tell you what benefits you get, does it? I mean, you just get the money through September and that's it.
In actuality, it's really manipulative, and it comes to trick you of sorts. There's no money appropriated for the early buyout. There's no money appropriated to pay employees to not work at all until September. Also, there are brackets of the government that did not qualify to be approved for that offer. They were exempt, but they did not know it. They didn't know it. It may have been in the fine print. It was somewhere that they didn't know it. So some people that volunteered for the early buyout that didn't know they were exempt, when they later learned the Trump administration, and they said, well, if you're exempt, that means that you really still have to work, right? That's the common thought. But when they contacted the administration and said, well, I volunteered for the buyout, but I don't qualify, the Trump administration told them, well, too bad, so sad. We're going to still terminate you, and you do not qualify to receive any retirement funds, if there be any to be approved. So it really came to trick them. It really came to manipulate them.
So Tammy represents the American Federation of Federal Employees here in Tuscaloosa. And Tammy, can you tell us, I assume that everyone at the VA received that same letter for early termination. Tell me about the mood of the workers at the VA, and how is it to work there now?
It's depressing to work there. Our employees are afraid for their jobs. They are anxious all the time. Our morale, which was already low, has gotten worse. And I'd like to recognize my officers too. I have my first vice president, Deborah Jordan, here. Our NMU, National Nurses United, we have their director here for jobs.
Can you speak in the microphone?
Jeff, can you hear me now?
Like your mom.
Can you hear me now? Director, Ms. Jennifer Giles, and her other two officers, I'm sorry, I don't remember y'all's titles, but we have Lisa Harris and Pam King. You know, I've been at the VA for 39 years, on March 16th. Yes, wow. I've never seen it this bad. We're under attack. They came after us from day one. We got the fork in the road letter, as far as I understand. We actually have 4 employees that took them up on that, that were eligible to take them up on that. The public is led to believe that we are lazy and incompetent, and nothing is further from the truth. How many of y'all are veterans here? Would you please raise your hand? Thank you. We have more than 30% of our employees are veterans. So when you're more than 30%, and when you start cutting VA jobs, you're cutting veteran jobs out as well. We're tired of the attacks. When someone does leave, one person has to do 2 jobs. We have a hard time recruiting physicians, psychiatrists, and nursing staff. They'll get there. We actually have 2 physicians that started in the last, say, 2 to 4 weeks maybe. They've both resigned because they can't trust the federal government anymore. And we desperately needed them. With the veteran suicide rate being as high as it is, it's a lot higher than it is in the general public. We need our psychiatrists, we need our mental health providers to help us in the effort to decrease those suicides. We are happy to serve our veterans. I don't think there's a higher purpose in the federal government than to serve our nation's veterans and take care of them. And we're just trying to do our jobs, and we're tired of being attacked, and we're tired of being threatened. So, you know, if they start taking our employees, they did send a letter to management and said, here's your list of probationary employees. Who do you want to keep? So I believe we kept most of them, but when they come back and say, okay, y'all kept too many, we're going to get rid of them anyway. I've had people walking into the union office joining because they're afraid for their jobs, and they're not even on probation. So it's been a very rough time for us. It's very disheartening that our service does not count.
Well, it does. We really do appreciate all the hardworking veteran employees that work so hard on behalf of our veterans.
Thank you.
I can imagine that So, Terry, how was the morale before that? Because I know that the VA has been under attack. It takes a long time for veterans to come in and get an appointment to see someone. So will this firing and this mass laying off of folks, how will that be impacted?
It will not help at all. We're running Saturday clinics to try to catch up to get veterans in the system. We're expending an incredible amount of overtime to accomplish that. And we just, if our funding is cut, we can't take care of our veterans. And that's our sole purpose there, is to take care of veterans. And that's what we do. That's what most of us have been tasked to do and what we love to do. And we stay at our jobs because we love what we do. And I don't know what we're going to do if we keep losing employees and we cannot recruit and retain physicians, nurses, psychiatrists. They're trying to do a lot of telehealth now where you look at a TV screen to see a doctor. Most of our veterans, I don't believe, like that approach. They'd rather see a face. They'd rather know that they're heard and be seen in person. So it's really just not a good situation for us. We were already kind of depressed, but this has really made it worse.
Yeah. Well, what's odd to me is that, when the majority of the electorate was asked what was the most important issue for the election, they said inflation. They said that they wanted an administration that was going to come in and make the gas prices go down, the price of eggs go down. And what I'm hearing from you is that people are losing their jobs or threatened to lose their jobs. So we're going to have folks with no jobs. And how is that going to affect inflation?
Exactly. How are you going to buy those eggs that are on the shelf now? How are you going to do anything? How are you going to pay your rent, your bills if you don't have a job?
Chris, in some cases we've seen money clawed back that was distributed to individuals. And this month, more than 200 utility customers in Huntsville were noticed that their accounts were being debited $100 due to the Trump administration's executive order that rescinded funding from a very important program called LIHEAP, Low Income Efficiency Program. Is for utility assistance, and so it goes to low-income individuals to help them pay their power bill during these months. And we know you all are here on a very cold night, and so you know what I'm talking about. And most of those a lot of those are administered through Community Action or through HUD. And so I'm not sure what's been going on in Tuscaloosa, but can you talk to us about what you're seeing in your agency? And I want to thank you for doing such a great job. You all. The Tuscaloosa Housing Authority does a really great job, and I wanted to give them an applause and to acknowledge all of the wonderful work that they do. I see Mr. Dino over there. He keeps me abreast on everything that goes on, Chris.
Thank you, Congresswoman, and I do want to recognize you and your staff for doing such a great job. What you guys see on TV and on the news is just a fraction of what the Congresswoman and her staff do. She's a champion of affordable housing. She's helping us with an issue right now that doesn't get any publicity. They're spending a lot of time on it. That's very important. So thank you so much for your continued support. Chris Hall, I'm the Executive Director of the Tuscaloosa Housing Authority. I appreciate you all being here this evening. We get all of our money through HUD, the United States Office of Housing and Urban Development. We're a quasi-governmental nonprofit. So similar to David and Maud Watley, we are not federal employees. We are a nonprofit that receives funding from the federal government. We operate the public housing program. We manage about almost 1,000 public housing units here in Tuscaloosa. We manage the Section 8 program, Housing Choice Voucher program. We administer about closer to 1,500 vouchers for low-income families. You know, Congresswoman, January 27th was kind of a wake-up call when you just think of the email that went out about freezing the ELOC system. The ELOC system is the electronic line of credit system that we and other agencies receive our federal funds to pay contractors to do work, to do all kinds of stuff. And we got a sort of a short email basically saying that the federal government was shutting down that system. And you can imagine, with you relying on the system on a daily basis to pay contractors and bills and things of that nature, sort of the concern that we had. You know, all of our programs are under threat at this time. The public housing program, Section 8 program, Congresswoman mentioned LIHEAP, which is a utility assistance program. The interesting thing about HUD is they have 9,600 employees, and the HUD budget is less than 1% of the national budget.
Say that again.
The HUD budget is less than 1% of the national budget. But what they're proposing to do is they're proposing to cut 50% of the HUD workforce. And 50% of those 9,600 employees, now that's probably closer to 9,000 because a lot of them took the buyout. Or, you know, they were made to leave because they were in their probation period. You know, I can tell you, one of the things I thought was interesting that was said was that, you know, there is sort of a belief that federal employees are lazy and that they don't do their job well.
I'm a federal employee. I know I be working. And I know my staff be working. But it's a narrative that's just not fair. It's hoisted upon federal employees like somehow we're, just because we work for the federal government, that somehow we don't have to do our job or we're not doing our job. And it's just a wrong narrative.
That may be correct with some people, but that would be correct with people in the private market too. You know, the interesting thing is we have a HUD representative in Birmingham. We have an office, a regional office in Atlanta. We deal with HUD Washington a lot on various issues. And I'm just telling you, every one of those individuals that I work with are extremely busy because they blow up my phone and my email on a consistent basis. So they are not lazy. They are constantly working to ensure that we're following HUD rules and regulations on a consistent basis.
And placing people who need low-income housing.
That's the conundrum, is that here in Tuscaloosa right now, and Mr. Ford, where's Mr. Ford? Everybody knows Mr. Ford. He's our assistant.
We know Dino.
Mr. Ford will tell you that there's not a day that goes by that his office isn't a revolving door of individuals coming in and out who are either homeless or on the verge of being homeless. And we have a homelessness crisis in Tuscaloosa, but we definitely have an affordable housing crisis in Tuscaloosa. There's not a day that goes by that I don't get an email about somebody living in their car with their kids, getting a call from the school system social worker talking about how can you do something for these kids because it's affecting their grades because they don't have a place to live. If we start cutting these dollars that go towards affordable housing, we're going to have a real problem that many people don't see, you know, but it's there, and it will only be compounded if the federal dollars are gone.
Yes, to share. But what do you want the audience to do with this information?
And I think one of the things that we can do, we know that Congresswoman, she's on the outside. Terri Sewell's on the outside. We can contact other representatives, not just all Democrats, but Republicans also. We're in all this thing together and let them also know our concerns because the spray is deep. It has no cover.
No party affiliation.
No party affiliation. And so we can let them also know our concern and the impact it's going to have on people.
Anybody else want to? Yeah.
Well, actually, we're asking Congress, and what we are asking the people of the state of Alabama Alabama 2nd Congressional District, your constituents to do is to reach out to Congress. There's a bill on the floor, Saving the Civil Service Act, H.R. 492. We want all congressional leaders, your legislators, lawmakers, you guys contact your legislator to tell them to support the bill. We have to
I'm on it. You've already contacted me. I'm on it.
We have to protect and fight Schedule F. As of today, we had 41 SSA employees to be terminated just because they were probationary.
Can you explain that?
Probationary means if you've entered into the agency and you haven't completed a full year or 2 years. So we have, everybody comes into the government to help serve the people. Our jobs are extremely important. The machine doesn't work by itself. If there's no us, there's no one there to pay SSI benefits. There's no one there to pay the veterans, to pay the disabled, to pay the elderly, to keep food on your tables, to keep a roof over your heads. So we're talking about your home. This is your livelihood. So it's very important that we save the civil service. We have to save the federal workforce.
You have anything to add, Terri?
I'll just say, I know that I heard something going around about veterans benefits. If you were a disabled veteran and you were getting a check, but you were working, they didn't consider you to be disabled and they were going to take your check away from you. Those who were 100% disabled, they were going to start taxing your check because right now you don't get taxed on it. So they're not just going after the VA or Social Security or all of our agencies. They're going even after our veterans, and I think that's horrendous. It's not fair. I worry about our food supply, the people that inspect our food. I mean,
Yeah, they're laying off folks at USDA.
and so they're already under a strain trying to make sure that our food supply is safe. How are they going to do that if they don't have enough employees to look at it? Are you going to really look at that package when you get to the grocery store and go, should I buy it or not? So, it affects a lot of things that people don't consider until it affects them. So your food supply, your research for cancer, your research for, vaccines, flu vaccines, COVID vaccines, everything, all the research that they do to get these things to help keep the public safe are being cut.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point you make. UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham, is the second largest employer in the state of Alabama. And I can speak because UAB is in my district, in our district. And UAB receives a huge amount of money, almost $300 million a year, from NIH, the National Institute of Health. The most recent executive order that was issued literally cuts that budget. That's future research for cures to cancer and other diseases that we're not going to get. These are jobs in Alabama that won't be around. And none of us are immune to this. And I want to go back to what I said before. We do not want an inefficient, ineffective government. None of us want that. None of us want that. That is not good. We want our money to be used wisely. We want our money to be used for our benefit. So know that I'm saying all I'm telling you, I'm talking about what's happening, but I'm telling you, we do have some inefficiencies in our government, but this is not how you get at it. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And I'm also saying that if we don't wake up as citizens of this great country and speak up and speak out about it, nothing will be done about it. I want to give you a secret. Laws do not just come from the halls of Congress. Laws bubble up from grassroots activism where the people demand better. where the people demand that we do our jobs in Washington. I'm telling you to help me, help us, by making sure that your voice is heard. I'm going to go back to what I said. I want you to take away from this that we're on a bad trajectory right now. And the only way that I think we can correct it is if we are letting people know what is at stake and what is at risk and how it affects every one of us. I don't know about you, if my brother loses his government job, I can't help him. I can't add another mouth to feed. I'm just saying. And I got 2 houses. Okay, you see what I'm saying. Okay. What I'm saying, though, seriously, is that collectively our voice matters. I think, if any district understands the importance of ordinary people working together, and as John Lewis would say, in a nonviolent fashion, and demanding the government do better, it's our district. It's our district. And I'm going to stick around afterwards, and I know we're almost at the end of our hour, and I want to be cognizant of time. I want to thank our panelists. Please give them a round of applause for being here. I want to thank all of you for being here on a very, very, very cold night. I think that your presence here, I'd like to believe, is a reminder of how important it is for us to communicate with one another. I don't have the answer, but I know that I need to talk to the people I represent and tell them what I know and to alert them of how it affects them. Now, if we choose to be silent, we're complicit. Right? How does evil run rampant when people of goodwill do nothing? Okay. And so I'm asking you not only to call our senators and tell them what you have heard today and ask them where they stand on things like this. I'm also asking you to work with organizations, whether that's your union, whether that's their neighborhood association, whether that's those of you who benefit from housing, your housing authority. We need to band together and make our voices heard. And I think the only way that we can do that is when we're equipped with information. So this is not Terri Sewell talking. These are people who are working at these organizations, who run these organizations, telling you that if the money is cut, and it has to be cut in order for us to give a tax cut to other people. You cannot give a $2.3 trillion tax cut without paying for it. Okay? And so how are you paying for it? And I'm just saying, please don't pay for it on the backs of hardworking people, poor people, vulnerable people, people who don't have health, don't have housing, why would we choose? This is not American to do that. So it is inhuman. And so I just think that what politicians understand best is public sentiment. And if we are silent, then they think it's okay to keep doing it. So I just need you all to tell your neighbors, tell your church members that you've been here and that we're in a crisis mode now because we cannot afford as Americans to have these kinds of cuts. And for what? To give Elon Musk more billions of dollars? To give corporations a bigger tax cut? But they didn't even ask for the 20% we gave them last time. I'm just saying. They went from 37% to 20%. Most folks were like, oh, we get 28. I mean, that was just fine. But we gave them all the way to 20. And that means less money in our coffers to do things that people need. So I don't want you to think that this is happening just to our money that we send abroad, because we've heard a lot of stuff about USAID, and this is happening in America. This is in our communities and what's going to happen in our communities if we don't say anything. And this is not about politics, people. I'm not here for politics. I'm here for people. And what I'm saying to you is that the vulnerable among us need our help. First of all, I don't know about you, but I'm one paycheck away from poverty. what, just let me miss one paycheck and can't pay my mortgage. You see what I'm saying? I may be coming to see you, Dino, in the line. But seriously, I think that we have to put ourselves in the place of the people who are being objectified. And I'm sorry, I think that federal employees are getting a bad. I'm not saying all federal employees are great. In every organization, there are people who don't do what they're supposed to do. In every organization, even Elon Musk's job, SpaceX and Tesla, I bet you we could find some people that are not doing what they're supposed to do. But what I'm talking about is the majority of the people who are there for the right reasons, doing hard work. And when they don't do their work, people don't get paid, people don't get fed, people don't get health care, people don't get housing. Something gives. So I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I want to remind you again of the fact that the power lies within all of us. We may be one vote by ourselves, but collectively we're an army. And so, you know, this will be a long 2 years if we continue on the trajectory we're on now. And I just hope that this president will listen to folks who are saying, you can cut, but don't just willy-nilly cut. Can we have a process here by which we're evaluating what works and what doesn't work? Because we know stuff doesn't work. But not every stuff don't work. Okay. And I want you all to give a round of applause to this audience and to this panel again. I want you to give a round of applause to Tidra, who works here in Tuscaloosa. You know, she's Dr. Owen.
We also want to thank Brandon, the site manager here, and James with Parks and Rec for allowing us to host this event. Thank you so much.
And who's going to close us out?
And we'll ask for our closing prayer. Ms. Reverend Kennedy.
And as he comes up, I just want to remind everybody, we center ourselves on God because we are a faithful people.
Yes, we are.
Okay? And as I said, I choose hope.
Yes.
I choose to believe that ultimately things are going to work out because ultimately I believe someone sits up high, he looks down low, and he protects us. But he protects those who protect themselves too. So we've got to do our part. We've got to do our part. Yeah, I know. You want to tell them what you told me? Please.
I trust in God. And you ought to say this. I trust in God. And I know whatever it is, God going to work it out. God, we just thank you this evening for this meeting. We thank you for the news we got, God. We thank you for those who share with us concerning what's going on in the community, on the jobs. And God, we pray blessing upon them, upon the effort that they give, God. Well, we know, God, that our strength comes from you. Yes. So, God, we seek you tonight to be strong in you and the power of your might, that we might be able to stand in times like these. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks again. And I'm going to stick around for those who want to talk to me. Please know that I'm here.
Do you know what's happening in Birmingham? Download the What's Happening Birmingham app today on Android, iPhone, and iPad for free. Get info on everything you need to know about local news, events, businesses, restaurants, and more. Visit our website, what'shappeningbham.com, or follow us on social media @happeningbham for more information. Download the What's Happening Birmingham app today, your source for everything Birmingham.